Welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting today. Welcome to members in the room and also to officers and also those that are joining us on YouTube watching this either live or recorded. If you'd like to see our agenda, there is a link in the information below the video. So I'd like to introduce Cabinet members around the table today. We've got Councillor Jill Heatham, who's Portfolio Holder for Community Safety and Wellbeing. We've got Councillor Jill Waring, Cabinet Holder for Leisure, Culture and Heritage. We've got Councillor Paul Northcott, Planning Portfolio Holder for Strategic Planning, and Deputy Leader Councillor Stephen Sweeney, Deputy Leader, of course, and Portfolio Holder for Finance, Town, Centre and Growth. And I'm Councillor Simon Taggle, Leader of the Council. We've got apologies today from Trevor Johnson, who is on holiday. Do you have any declarations of interest for items on the agenda? Not seeing any from members. And we've got the minutes of the meeting attached on page 5 to 9. Can we agree those as a correct record? Agreed. All agreed. So then on to item 4 of what is an important agenda. First one is Wally's Quarry odour issues. We've had reports to a number of cabinets now with an update on the situation relating to Wally's Quarry. Now it's affecting our residents. And I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to give a brief introduction to this report and then open it for questions as we go forward. Martin.
Thanks, Leader. This report follows the same format that you've been having for a little while now. And I think that the key things to draw your attention to, paragraph 2.4 in the report sets out the timeline that was agreed at the case management hearing. Now, your last meeting was on the day of the case management hearing, so I think you had a shortened version of this, but there in 2.4 we set out the full timetable. So officers at the moment are busy preparing the list of documents to meet that exchange date of the 12th of January. There's then quite a body of work that goes on between parties in February and April, particularly identifying areas where there is common ground, particularly where experts are concerned, getting through then to a pre-trial hearing on the 13th of May. And then we have a 4-week window set aside in June for the court to hear the appeal of the abatement notice. In terms of mediation, we're continuing to see whether or not we can find a route to mediation for this as an option. It's something that the courts tend to be keen on across the board in disputes, and we're just awaiting at this stage final view from Wally's Quarry as to whether or not they will take part in the mediation process. In terms of the ongoing situation, you will see we've got complaint data up until the end of October. So you'll see 20,000, almost 21,000 complaints to the end of October for the year so far, which is, by some measure, the most complaints we have about anything. And you'll also see that the Environment Agency are receiving roughly double that level of complaints. I think they're increasingly being seen as the place to complain. I suspect there will be double counting. A lot of people will complain to both routes, but you will see that in October, the figures are. The complaint figures for both of us have dropped off. In terms of the air quality monitoring, we've got this in a different format to your previous reports on this, because it just lends to easier reading. And it's a fairly consistent picture that we're seeing over the last little while of 3 of the monitoring stations being fairly low, but we're still seeing instances at the Gallingale monitoring station, which are concerning. So you can see 1st to the 7th of November and 8th to the 14th of November at the Gallingale area, we had increases in the proportion of time that the odour or the annoyance guidance level was being exceeded. So there remains some problem there from the Gallingale area. In terms of the enforcement activity that the Environment Agency are leading on, the 27 additional wells have now been put in, and the application of the POSI shell has been completed. Collectively, that is seeing roughly double the amount of gas being collected and destroyed compared to December last year. So that's a significant uplift, and that's because the gas through the POSI shell is being contained, and then through the gas wells is being captured. At this stage, we don't know. The POSI shell clearly is a temporary capping measure, and will need to be replaced in due course by a permanent capping. But I think that's really the highlights at this stage. Our efforts at the moment now are preparing for the legal process.
Thank you, Martin. We'll go through the report bit by bit, section by section, and I'll open it for questions. First, on the statutory nuisance, one from me. I was at the, and Councillor Sweeney was also at the court for the hearing on the appeal. And I'm quite certain, my memory, that the lawyer for the operator was quite happy for mediation to take place. And I'm very surprised at this stage we're still waiting to hear from the operator. What sort of redress is there on this, other than publicly stating that we haven't had any indication they're willing to mediate? As you said, Martin, it helps the process and actually helps possibly to resolve this sooner rather than later. So you thought it would have been in the operator's interest if they were an operator that thinks about the community in which they operate. But Martin, any comment?
At the court hearing, clearly the legal team will have gone away to take instruction on this, and at this stage we haven't had a definitive position from Wally's Quarry as to whether they will engage in mediation or not. As I said, it is something that the court process encourage, but there's not it's a voluntary process. It's not something where there is a sanction as such.
I think, though, from in the court of public opinion, which we all sit in, I think the council will have to, come back and let people know whether the offer of mediation has been taken up, and then people can make their views on that. And I think before Christmas we need to make a statement as a council on that, and we will certainly come back to that in the future. Open it up now to questions and comments, Steve, on the abatement notice bit of the report.
I just think it's the court of public opinion, which it is. I also think it's the judge's opinion. He was got the impression anyway that he was concerned the process was taking as long as it was doing it. When the court case was being booked in for June or July or something, he was very, very disappointed. I think he's well aware of the need to crack on with this. So although public opinion would say, I think the judge wants it as well for the way the inference he was giving me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Any more comments on the statutory nuisance issue? Okay, moving on to the air quality monitoring and also complaints. Any comments on those? Jill?
I think given that the temporary capping seems to have improved capturing the gas, it's a bit concerning, the figures, certainly for Gallingale in November, and it'll be interesting to see when we've got that information what the complaints were, because the complaints only go up to October in this, and whether or not members of the public and any other interested parties are actually continuing to make those complaints.
I think, Jill, you're quite right. People need some of the message really from us here again is complain if you smell these gas odours, because that's really important. I mean, I don't think it's gone away. I think probably, if you were hand on heart, you'd say, yes, it has improved. But again, there's a lot of work going on site at the moment, which should be improving it. And I just worry about the longer term. And I think with the history of this operator and the history of poor regulation by the Environment Agency, we need to keep their hands to the fire on this. But Martin, any comment?
Complaints do continue to come in, and we see some correlation between the complaints coming in and spikes in odour, which I think is really important, because it spikes that idea that this is just people complaining for the sake of it. We do actually see the complaint data following the odour levels. So I would absolutely encourage people that are experiencing problematic odours to continue to complain to both ourselves and the Environment Agency, and indeed to the operator.
Any other comments on that bit? No. Moving on to the Jerome equipment. Obviously, as we stated last time, the council has now two bits of equipment which can be placed in people's houses, and there is a timescale, etc. for that. But we have made a commitment that we will share the results of those. So when will we have some results to share with the public?
The Jerome data at the moment, we're doing some analysis on to make sure that we're sharing accurate data that has got sort of appropriate calibration, if you like, rather than just, if you like, the raw data. Because there are times in the period of time that a Jerome is in a property, it goes through what are called regeneration cycles that then can produce these spikes. So we're working through that, and we're talking to our colleagues about at what was PHE about really what that data means. Because putting out the data raw is one thing. We really want to be able to put out the data with some explanation as to what we're actually seeing there.
Thank you, Martin. Any other questions on data or monitoring, etc.? I mean, the section about obviously the environmental agency enforcement is self-explanatory. We know that the request has been put on the company to obviously shall cap the area. That's ongoing, and I believe from the EA that's almost complete. And then there's obviously the gas wells that are being put in there to capture more gas so it can be destroyed. We're obviously going to we are going to be monitoring the EA and hope that they're monitoring the operator to ensure that work is done properly. There is a public engagement event this evening in this building. I believe it's 4:30 or something, isn't it, for a couple of hours. That's open to the public. Everybody welcome. All of the partners will be there: the council, the county council, the Environment Agency, Public Health and the police, but of course not the operator. Has never been in any of these engagement events. But hopefully if people can come along and speak to the relevant partners and get a more of an understanding of what's going on there and what is planned, and hopefully improvements which will lead to an end to this scourge that we've suffered for the borough for, of this intensity, almost a year. But recommendations before us was we look at the report and we note the updates and the contents of the report. All agreed? Thank you. Moving to item number 2. This is a revenue and capital budget 22 to 23 first draft savings plan, and Stephen Sweeney is going to introduce this.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. This is part of the process for the budget. It's always been a very, very trying process with COVID, with people working from home and this sort of thing. As you'll recall, on the 13th of October, the gap that we need to fill was £1.596 million for next year. If you look to, where are we, 2.3 and 2.4, it says how that has been reduced to 1.313 million, which is where we are at the moment. What we're bringing with you today is Appendix A tells us how we're going to fill that gap of 1.313 million. And to be in a position that we're in now, we are with huge amount of effort and work in very trying circumstances. I think we're somewhat in front of the game, really, to announce these figures here that we've balanced this. The council tax that we're proposing to raise is 1.99%. It could be £5 a year, but we've managed to get less than that. It's £4.10p a year, or 8 pence a week increase, which is actually less than last year, which I think is quite a notable achievement for the times we're in now. Although this is the proposal as they are at the moment, we have a government budget settlement figure which comes in the middle of December. That might change things. I don't think it will change things hugely, but it might do. So these are once this has gone through today, providing it gets accepted today, it will then go out for consultation tomorrow for the next month till January the 4th, I think, or something like that. And it'll come back then, and we're looking at the final figures then. But I'm happy to commend this. I think it's a good budget, it's a sound budget, and I'm proud of it, to be honest with you. And I think it's a good job done by the officers in very, very trying circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, I'll endorse what you said there about the work of the officers and yourself on this budget. I think to get to this stage, we are still early in the process as we work towards the budget setting in February. And as you said, there's a lot of blanks to be filled in, particularly the government settlement, which is again approaching arriving with baubles and gift wrapping on again, isn't it? Just before Christmas, as it always is. They always say we're going to do it in October, then it's November, and now we're December again, aren't we? So, which is just the way government works. But hopefully, we can make obviously the final amendments to the budget in the new year. Consultation period, of course, we always have, and also this will be going to Finance and Assets Performance Scrutiny Committee in a week or so for members to have a look at this as well. And I think I will endorse your proposal, really, that we have the 1.99 council tax increase. That is less than the last couple of years and goes back to the first couple of years of our administration, which is now reaching its fourth year in the next week. And I can say we've kept council tax low, and we continue to do that when we can. And of course, the environment in which we've been working over the past 18 months and the past year as we've been running the council has been under an international crisis of COVID. I think what we should say is that the government funding we've received has been on and above what we required, and it's really helped us to get through that period when J2 was closed, when services were closed, the services were under pressure, etc., to enable us to reach a balanced budget position, which we're recommending today in the recommendations. But I'll open it up now to any comments on the budget proposals in front of us and the saving plans. Paul.
Thanks, Leader. Thank you, Deputy Leader. Now, I'm pleased that this report's come now, and it's robust as it is. As you've said, Deputy Leader, this has been extraordinary work from officers whilst we've been under the influence of COVID and coming out of COVID, and also at the same time bringing in new operating models to drive efficiency also at the same time. It's not always apparent till further down the line the benefits of such measures, but the early indications are that that's been mentioned here, and I can see it in the budget proposals, that this has put us in a real healthy position. I think it's prudent that we operate within our means, and that we're not overspending unnecessarily where it is needed, and not vanity projects that are going to be just used. It's for the benefits of the residents. And I think the council tax rise proposal, I think, is in keeping with our aspirations that we want to do as a council going forward. It's in a prudent way and not in a reckless way. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any other comments? No, I think just to sum up then, I think we've got a budget here that is making savings where required, but also invested in services. If you look on page 16, we've got the capital programme there, a massive investment in the borough on for our residents, and we've got items on the agenda coming up which show how we're using government funding to bring about improvements to our town centre and other parts of the borough, and also to sports facilities, etc. So, for where we are now, I think it's a good position, and we obviously await the government announcement before Christmas, which will help us even further. And of course, we await the views of scrutiny and the consultation that will be available for the public to take part in as we move towards the next stage of the budget setting process, which is the January cabinet. But we've got recommendations in front of us here. All agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Next item is item number 6 is the new Rycroft car park contract award, and Stephen's going to introduce this.
Thank you again. In December 2020, MHCLG confirmed to Council its future High Street Fund business case submission had been successful, and that £11,048,260 have been given to the Council. Part of that is going to be spent on a new car park on the Rycroft. The first stage of that is appointing contractors, and through the PAG-ABO framework, Morgan Sindall are going to be the contractors. It's early stage yet. We've started to look at designs. Obviously, we want the modern developments are a tad different, should we say, from what there was previously built in the 50s and 60s. And we're just starting to look at that, but it's early stage yet. But this is just saying that the Morgan Sindall have been appointed, and to allow myself and Mr. McKenna, the officer, to work the system forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'm just on the council website at the moment. It's got it in front of me here. And if you look at the series of stories that have gone on there, news updates, you've got the new multi-storey car park will drive transformation. You've got Town's Cabinet to go ahead with buying shopping arcade. We'll see that later on the agenda. And we've got the aspirational net zero plans for the Rycroft side in association with Aspire. And these are all, moving our town centre forward, using the Future High Streets Fund money, which the government has given us to kick off that regeneration, which will change the face of that side of town and also bring people working, living in the town, and also give a boost to retail on that side of town as well. So this is a key part of that. And the result of that will be that eventually the Midway car park will become redundant. That car park that has cost us so much, the council so much money just to keep open and from falling down over the years. In the period I've been leader between 2006 and 11, we spent many hundreds of thousands of pounds just to keep that open. It was, a very poor quality car park, and it should be replaced, and the sooner the better. And that will then free up that site for some for older people accommodation on that site. I don't think we're looking for more student accommodation in the town centre at this point. We're looking for a town centre for all. There's already enough student accommodation, and some that is still requires to be built, as we're all aware, across the road from this building, which is a private development. But I think this is a first step of many on this site, along with the other things that have been announced later on the agenda. I think when you talk about design, we're in that stage, and I think this is going to be a very high profile site on the Rycroft area, and I think the design is very important. So we're looking for something, you cannot make a really pretty looking car park, can you? But we can have design that is sympathetic to the area and also is cutting edge, and also has a bit of a nod to the history of the area as well, which we're looking to come. We'll have more announcements on those going forward. But this, first of all, as Stephen says, kicks off this item that we can move forward. We've already got workers on site demolishing the civic offices. Again, mainly internal stripping out at the moment, but hopefully in the new year we will see some physical signs outside of that building being brought down, taking longer than you would expect, but because of the asbestos in the building. But things have started on there. Soon we'll have more work going on there, and this is the development thanks to £11 million from the government through the Future High Streets Fund, and then using some of the £23.5 million in the town deal money as well to take this forward in the future. Well, I'll open it up to any comments now, and Jill Waring.
Thank you, Leader. Going back to the awarding of the contract, I'm pleased that we're going with Morgan Sindall. We do appear to have a good working relationship with them based on recent work that they've done at J2, and it would seem sense to me to carry on the relationship and award the Rycroft project to them. It's really difficult to understate the importance of the recent government funding awards to Newcastle and Kisgrove, so I think it's all good news. Thank you.
Jill, any other comments? Paul?
Thanks, Leader. Yeah, for those of us that have been in the council some time, to see this site undeveloped has been a considerable blight on Newcastle. It seems that things now are coming together and a little bit more firm in terms of actual delivery. And that was, harking back to the past when the delivery didn't take place under a previous administration for whatever reasons I won't go into here. But I'm very pleased to see that that this is finally coming online, and that we're progressing things at a pace with the extra money that we've been given to facilitate this. So I'm really pleased with this. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Any other comments? No. So recommendations are before us on this item, as Steve has read out, and do we all agree? Agreed. Great. Let's move on to another important item associated with the one we've just discussed, and that is the purchase of York Place in the town centre, and Stephen's going to introduce this one.
Thank you again, Leader. This is another exciting development as part of the progression to the redevelopment of the whole area. Really, I'll just read a bit from the report, I think, which sums it all up. York Place has suffered from under-occupation for a number of years, and currently there are 5 empty units, as well as units that, although theoretically occupied in terms of lease, do not appear to be trading. The demand for retail units is changing, and the council needs to ensure our town centre is fit for future demands. I think York Place is of an age. I think it was built in the 60s and looks like it was built in the 60s, and I think it's tired. The fact that so much of it is empty rather points to that fact. I think it is just of a time. and the purchase. And what we're asking now is to Cabinet to approve the purchase of this, again, using High Fund money. And I absolutely support this. I think it's a vital part of the redevelopment of this part of the town. Thank you.
And of course, we're not just buying a shopping arcade for the sake of it. There's actually a reason for this, and that is because this will open up the Rycroft area to the rest of the town centre and link it in with quality retail along, that walk at the moment and into the Iron Market and on through to High Street. And I think that's what's lacking at the moment. The Rycroft site is seen as an island, really separated from the rest of the town centre. Well, through the plans we're bringing forward about the car park, the Aspire HQ with the workers, the homes on there for people to live, and then the retail offer along, the York Place through to where the Bull's Head is, which is one of the oldest buildings in Newcastle, through to the Iron Market. The vision is to create that shopping parade from Rycroft through to the town centre. And this is the first step in that, which is the purchase of this building. I think the tenants that are in there at the moment, the council has already contacted them. They're important to the town, and we'll be helping them to continue their businesses until the plans come forward for this site, and we'll ensure that they're accommodated somewhere else in the town centre at a later date when required. But I think this development is needed. As Stephen has said, the York Place is a tired building at the moment, and we can do better. I think we can design something better. And again, I will go back to what I said when it comes to the car park. We must look at the design that is sympathetic and complementary to the rest of the town centre, because Newcastle has suffered in the past through many developments that do not fit in and has lost many of its historic buildings. Well, I think since 2017, with such things as the Guildhall, keeping that as a public building and the regeneration of that and refurbishment of that, which we announced a couple of weeks ago and it reopened, shows that we care about our build environment and that we have a nod to our history as well, which we will do in these proposals. I'll open it up now to comments from any members on this. No? Okay. I think we were all signed up to the vision. We're all signed up to getting on with this, and we have the government money, thankfully, now for us to be able to kick this off. And as Stephen said, some exciting proposals, which we will hear more about as we go forward. But the report here, which is in public, is that the authorises the Commercial Director for Development and Economic Growth, in consultation with the portfolio holder, to enter into such agreements as necessary to conclude the purchase of York Place, Astley Walk Shopping Centre arcade in Newcastle under Lyme, in accordance with the heads of terms set out in the confidential appendix, which we will come to later in private, but that's because of commercially sensitive material and information within that. So, but as for the public report, can we all agree? Excellent, thank you. Right, moving on then to item 8, which is the improvement of Westland Sports Centre and Woolstanton Park tennis courts. And this is Jill Waring introducing this one. Over to you, Jill.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, as the Leader said, the report refers to the proposals to upgrade tennis courts at the Westland Sports Centre and Woolstanton tennis courts. We've been given a grant in principle of £133,700 from the LTA. This follows the work that our officers have done with the Lawn Tennis Association to look at the best opportunities to encourage and promote tennis in Newcastle. We know there is a demand for tennis, if only there were better facilities and more easily accessible tennis courts, and this has been supported by the LTA data. So the LTA therefore have identified Newcastle as a priority area, and to improve access to the tennis courts, and in turn the Westlands and the Woolstanton's facilities have been chosen as the best option to do this in the borough. This is really, really positive for us. It's a chance to further support residents and improve health and well-being. It's also an ideal opportunity to bring in more investment to our parks, and we will be looking to do things like developing a tennis programme focusing on youth and adult programmes, tennis leagues, competitions, coaching and tennis for free initiatives. So there's some really good things to look forward here. So I do welcome this initiative and support the recommendations, which are to allow the Executive Director to enter into a funding agreement with the LTA, and following that, an award for the contract for the refurbishment of the tennis courts. I'm not sure what the time frame is for this, but hopefully if it's done ready in time for Wimbledon next year, we can get all those who are really keen on tennis playing tennis. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Yes, back you on this. And I've used both of these tennis courts in the past, and both have been looking tired, over the past few years. And it's great to get this funding in to be able to do that revamp to both Westlands and the Woolstanton one, and they will be very well used, I think, and also get those younger people in there too. We want the next tennis stars, don't we? We've to come from this area. Tennis is looking good for Britain Great Britain over the last few years, and we want that next production line of tennis players, and that's where this will start, in places like Westlands Sports Centre and in Woolstanton, and then people get the bug for tennis and then join a club and take it from there, don't they? So I think brilliant this has been brought, and as I say, the sooner we can do this, the better. And I will now open it up to any comments, Stephen and then Jill.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. Yeah, I think we all watched Emma Raducanu in the States winning that, and I think that sort of success breeds success. And it's a saying I've used before, but only the best for the people of Westlands and Woolstanton. And I think a facility like this will be very well used, and success breeds success, and you get somebody winning things. No, I'd like to do that. So I think it's like whenever I go anywhere near the Jubilee 2, the climbing wall always seems to be busy. Well, when you watch it in the Olympics, these people doing the speed climbing in the Olympics, and they're like slither up in 5 seconds. Absolutely unbelievable. You can understand how a bit of promotion creates interest, creates buzz, creates atmosphere, creates something that people want to do. And I absolutely endorse this entirely. Thank you.
Jill Heason.
Yes, I'd like to endorse it also. I think it's brilliant that we've had this funding, and it'll bring an improved offer for health and wellbeing to the communities.
Cute. Any other comments before I bring Jill back in? No? Okay, Jill.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I believe it's going to be ready in spring next year, so that's just going to be fantastic, just in time for Wimbledon. And just like the pump track in Kidsgrove, we will see professionals coming out of tennis and BMX tracks in the borough, and I just think it's absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. That's excellent. Then that's confirmed, and I think there will be a sort of a slick booking system for this as well, and it will remain free for people in both areas. Okay, so the recommendations for us, as Jill has read out, do you all agree? Thank you. Moving on then to item 9, which is our Procurement Strategy 2022-25, and Stephen's going to introduce this one as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, Leader. The Procurement Strategy, it follows on from the previous one, which was 17 to 21, so it can be 22 to 25, this. It went through scrutiny, and in fact, one of the members who's an expert in procurement said he felt it was the finest piece of work he'd ever seen this council produce. And he told the county council that, and I think the county council had been talking to our officer who did it, which is quite a feather in his cap. Procurement, when you read it, I'm a bit boring when I read bits out, but I'm going to read a couple of little paragraphs out, which I think really sums up this strategy. Says me desperately looking for it. Yeah, ethical procurement considers the impact of environmental, sustainable, economic, and social factors, along with price and quality. And this theme of sustainable and net zero runs through this, as well as the value for money that we need to achieve for our residents. Our vision for procurement over the term of this strategy is to demonstrate value for money through the effective procurement of goods, services, and works on a whole life basis in terms of generating sustainable benefits to the community and council, whilst minimising impacts to the environment. So I think that says it all. It's for the next 4 years, and I absolutely totally support it. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, completely endorse it too. And I think, as you pointed out, that sustainable thread that goes through this. Obviously, value for money is amazingly important, and we always go for that. But also, we've got to think of the commitments we've made to reach net zero, and obviously, contractors that we have now will already be thinking about how they're going to reach net zero and how they're going to work more sustainably. So it's quite right that is centre now to our procurement strategy, and this new one that we're going to agree today, which runs from 22-25, does that. So open it up to any questions and comments from Cabinet members. Jill, and then Paul.
Just a quick one. Yeah, I just think it's absolutely essential that this council is ruthless but fair in its purchasing to make sure that we get the best value of money for the taxpayer. We need a good strategy, and this looks what this seems to be. Thank you.
Paul.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I welcome this report. It can be a boring subject for a lot of people, but procurement's got many strands to it, and we've got to be seen as a council to have the governance in place and the structure and the fairness with our responsibilities when we're conducting procurement exercises. And it's all important that this links into doesn't exist on its own, but is linked into our aspirations as a council, and that it links in with the strategic aims of the council that we're trying to put forward. So I welcome this report and endorse it 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, we have a leadership role as a council when it comes to sustainability. We passed a climate change emergency in 2019, which committed the council to be carbon neutral by 2030. So I think it's through our procurement, we show that leadership in our community, and that the change we want to make and contractors have to abide by that, as well as value for money, which has always been in our procurement strategy, but now it is I believe, a green procurement strategy. So recommendations as Steve has moved there, all agreed? Agreed. Thank you. And we're on to item 10 now, which is bill payment service contract 21 to 22 to 25 to 26. Stephen introducing this one as well.
Okay, thank you. This is the renewal of the contract, really. That if you want to pay your council tax, you want to pay by direct debit, you want to pay at a post office, there's obviously a post office or pay point. There's a charge for us running the thing, and it runs out. I think runs at about over 4 years, about 103,000. The cost of doing it, but the cost of not doing it. As you can see, the figures are quite substantial. On 1.5, still a lot of people want to pay over the counter, and I think we've got to accommodate those people. I think making life hard for people to pay is never a very good business decision, and this is just basically carrying on. Now, when these people got the first contract, they took over from the co-op, and I don't think it went particularly well. The change from one contract to another, it took a couple of years really to settle in. And I think it makes sound economic sense and sound sense to our residents really to make life as easy as possible. And I think rolling it over for another 4 years is the most sensible approach, and I'll support this. Thank you.
Open it up to any comments. I think you've done a comprehensive introduction to the report there. We've moved the recommendations that we agree the bill payment service contract for those dates. All agreed? Great. And then the next item is item 11 in the same vein, procurement of corporate mail services and Steve is introducing this one too.
Not me.
Hey?
That's you.
Oh, okay. Now I've got into such a routine then of asking Stephen to, you can still introduce it if you want, Steve. So you're throwing me now because I haven't actually got the pages open, thinking I was handing over to you. So yes, in the same vein, obviously, as the previous item, and it's ensuring that we've got obviously correct contracts and also correct services for our council, and also particularly in the IT area. So we're authorising that Cabinet authorised the direct award of the contract to PSL Print Management Limited under the Crown Commercial Services Framework, and for a period of 3 years with the option to extend to a further times 1 year extension to December 2026. So an important part of obviously how we run the council in an efficient way. So nothing more to say, but opening it up to comments. Not seeing, oh, Jill.
Exactly, that it looks like we've been using this company for 4 years and they appear to be doing a good job. So I think it would be as well to just stick with them if it's a good, reliable system. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? So recommendations before us, which I've just moved. Do we all agree? Great. Thank you. Moving then to forward plan, which is item 12. This is our plan for the next 3 months. So we used to go through page by page to agree or to any amendments or suggestions. So page 97, all agreed with that, which is basically today's meeting. And then on to page 98. Then on to page 99, and as you'll see, there are more issues coming forward relating to the regeneration of the town deals, and also Future ICT Fund, as well as a heavy budget setting agenda as we move towards the February meeting. Page 100 continues. All agreed? Excellent, thank you. Looking at urgent business, I do have one item of urgent business, and we don't really like to bring urgent business and plonk a report on the table, but we do have one which we need to discuss today, which is Estate Regeneration Fund grant acceptance, which is for SIC authority to receive a grant as part of the ERF to fund from the government to fund a regeneration scheme. And Stephen's going to introduce this now, talk us through it and move the recommendations. Stephen.
Yeah, thank you. As residents may be aware, Aspire redeveloping the Cross Street part of Cheston. Part of their funding package is this. The money comes to us, and we just put it straight out to them. It'll be one of the things they've put in their funding way. And so all we're saying now is have the money in, and we send it straight out again with the proviso. If anything goes wrong or anything like that, we can call the money back in to pay back to the government. So it just covers our backs basically in case anything goes wrong. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is it's obviously an investment in the borough. We're talking about the 11 million. We're talking about the 23.5 million for the town. We're talking about, 16 with advanced money, 17 million in Kidsgrove. And this is another funding which is going to a partner who are developing Cross Street. Nothing to do with the council, that site. It's actually a Aspire site. So anything that goes on there is with the blessing of Aspire as the landowner and the development they're bringing forward. This will give them a cash boost to enable the regeneration of that site. And as recommended, we authorise the receipt of that, and then that'll be passported through to Aspire for the regeneration of that area. All agreed? Thank you. That's great. Then no other urgent business. We now move to item 14, which is disclosure of exempt information. And we have an item to do with York Place, which is the confidential report. Just to